Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, and today I'm hanging out with a celebrity nerd, David Harbour, and we're going to be just shooting the shit, talking about D&D. I got him for a brief window here, so like I was just telling David off air that I found out that he plays D&D because we did the fantasy cruise, we'd given away a cabin, and it was so cool because one of our winners had gotten picked to ask a question, and she had asked the kids about if they had ever played D&D, and they're like, no, but we were kind of interested, we would check it out, maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but David threw them all under the bus and was like, I play a game I don't know if you said you play the game every week or you run a game every week, but you threw out an invitation for him to play some D&D.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I ran a campaign. I was a DM for a campaign. This was like a couple years ago, though, because my schedule got so busy. We had to, and like all my friends have like weird schedules, and so we started, and we were actually doing Pathfinder. You play any Pathfinder?
A little bit. That was like a weird time for us, where they went into 4th edition. We played a little bit of that. And then we just got into a superheroes kick, and we totally went into Mutants and Masterminds.
Okay.
And by the time we were coming back, 5th edition was coming out. And as the older I get, the less I want crunch and the more rules light systems I tend to go towards now.
Wait, you like more rules light systems?
I do actually. Okay.
Which is just more free form, like more.
I think AD&D versus Pathfinder.
Okay, yeah. I mean, because we started up, because I hadn't played in years, and my friends were like, apparently the new system at that point wasn't very good, or people weren't happy with it. They thought it had been more action-oriented, or it sort of went along with World of Warcraft or something. They weren't happy with the D&D system at the time, and he said Pathfinder was better. So we started like getting all those books and like starting a campaign, but it was crazy, man. Like, I got tremendous respect for a good dungeon master, which I am not, because it is a very hard job. Because maybe it's because my friends are all jerks or something, but like, you set up this entire campaign and you're trying to guide them toward a certain action, and like all they want to do is like go explore some kind of drama with some orc in the corner of the tavern or something, and I have to like come up with a whole new fucking plan for them, and it was awful. It was quite a disaster. And also, like, the idea that, like, as an actor, I mean, you're constantly trying to play characters, but as a DM, you're basically playing, like, 1,000 characters, like, just sort of doing all the voices and all this stuff. And so I have great respect for people that are able to do that sophisticatedly, because I was not one of those people.
Yeah, Brian's Gates in the chat there. DM is like herding cats, exactly. That's a lot of the stuff we try and touch on our channel, too, is, like, this whole idea of writing out these elaborate campaigns and mapping everything out for your players is a waste of your time, because as soon as everyone hits the table, you might as well dump some gasoline on your notes and throw a match.
Yeah, exactly. I know, I didn't realize that, but that is the way it works, isn't it?
You know what? It's what we all have to learn and go through. And really, like, this is like a golden age for playing role-play games. Like, just like me, I'm sure you started when you were younger, and there was no resources. Like, maybe a friend had an older brother, or a sister that played, and that's how you started.
Yeah, we had, like, I was in kind of, I guess it was like 5th grade or 4th grade. We had like an advanced placement teacher. We take like AP courses with him, and he ran a campaign after school for like 3 hours on Thursday afternoons. I think our parents would pay like, I don't know, like $50 a month for us to play in this campaign. And that's where I really fell in love with it. And he was really good. Like, he would come up with his own campaigns, and like, we got to multi-class and like come up with sort of minions, and he had all these different ideas. So that's where I really fell in love with it. And that was really my beginnings. But that was the old system. I mean, that was the advanced D&D system, the old Gary Gygax, like the old monster manual. And so I actually got a reprint of that stuff a couple years ago. There's like some reprints of the original systems, like Deities and Demigods, that book, and the old monster manual, the old DM's guide, the old player's guide, and those are great. Like, I love all the old art in them, like all the weird drawings. Some of them will be really good, some of them will be really horrible, and all the different gods and the way they went into it. It was, it's a really cool game.
One of the guys that was on the cruise, and we actually met him there. He actually lives in your hometown now. Brian Stillman. He did the Plastic Galaxy documentary about Star Wars collectibles and action figures. But he's currently working on Eye of the Beholder: The Art of D&D.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I think we're expecting it out sometime next year. But yeah, that might be right up your alley. And he's like, he's interviewing all the artists from the original game all the way up to the current edition.
Wow, that's super cool. Yeah, I used to love all those old drawings, and like that stuff was so great. Yeah.
Yeah, he always hear he tells all these great stories about people talking about the art, people buying the books and not even know what the game is. They just it was the only place for him to get a book of monsters like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like, what was super cool about those old games too, which I don't know if it exists so much, because I feel like now games are based much more in action. But what I really loved about the old D&D games were like the emotional connections or the relationship connections, or just like hanging out in a tavern and like doing weird story stuff that wasn't based on like, killing monsters. And so when you did kill a monster, it was maybe like 30% of the campaign, but most of the campaign was spent like negotiating your histories with various races and like your tensions and even like political tensions and things like that, which I think is so much more unique about a game like that than, I feel like a lot of stuff has gone into video games now where it's like all action and there's so little of that. I felt like D&D was such a human game in that way. Like you could really explore personalities of character and stuff. And so I love that aspect of the game.
Yeah, in one of the last sessions I ran, a couple of my characters had kind of like been taken in by this old widow, and they like returned from town from one of their adventures to the news that she had passed away. And they're like trying to think of like all this in-game stuff they can do, but it just turned out she was just old. So they have to, they end up inheriting the estate and they have to do a funeral. And of course, I had like demons and stuff show up and zombies show up at the funeral because it's D&D. But yeah, it's that kind of stuff that is a lot of fun that we can introduce into the game. The human element, interacting with people, telling these cooperative stories. And I feel like now more than ever, like when I used to play growing up as a teenager and a tween, you would have that DM like you're talking about that would plot everything out for you and just kind of go along with that story. But it really has evolved from that point where we all share the story and kind of create it together.
Yeah, and I love the complexity of the world, because there's even with the gods and the different planes, like limbo on the chaotic neutral side, and then there's like that mechanistic ordered world on the neutral side, and then there's like Hades and all these different, like the mythos is so wide and huge, and I always found that fascinating. Like there's always some little aspect that you can go into that you hadn't known about, and there's just so much lore there. It was so cool.
So I had let the guys on our Patreon know you'd be coming on, and so I said if they had any questions and we could get to them or whatever, and they're D&D related, I would throw them out there. So Tom Donovan wanted to know what from pre-3rd edition, what was your favorite class or archetype of character to play?
I mean, I guess when I first started playing, I love the cleric class. I think it's such I guess it's different than a paladin, but it's something where it's like these guys who would just, carry like a book and a mace and had like healing spells and stuff like that, and kind of were warriors of the light. And I like the whole religious mythos of those guys and sort of their passion. And I also loved the idea of those guys where they couldn't party with like evil members or like even neutral members they had personality issues with. Like if you weren't on that sort of team with the cleric, like he'd have a lot of issues with you. So I like that complexity with them. But I really was like a cleric guy or like a warrior guy. I never really got into the like mage class, the wizard class, or the thief class. Like I always felt like they were too sort of weak in the beginning. Like they would just ultimately get slaughtered until they got to higher levels and they would just destroy things. But like when they always had like 8 hit points or something, and they'd always get killed immediately. So I was never into like those classes.
Yeah, one of the guys we used to play with used to always talk about his necromancer of doom, and he was like a 4th or 5th level wizard. You know, when we finished that game, and he had like 15 hit points. So
Exactly, I know those guys are like glass cannons. I always hated those guys.
5th edition is a little more forgiving. It's gotten a little bit easier. They've given them a few more hit points, and they have more spells that they can cast.
Okay.
Like back in the day, you cast Magic Missile, which was probably going to be your one spell, and like you were done for the day.
Yeah, or like Burning Hands was like another one, right? And then you were like, you had like 2 spells a day or something, and then you had to go study your books. And yeah, they seemed wildly inefficient as opposed to some guy with a mace who who could really like take action.
Yeah, the earlier editions was really tough for getting that wizard up in levels, but then once you got there, you were like a god.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, especially early on, like Dragonlance did a lot for characters wanting to play wizards. Raceland Magier.
Yeah, and his brother was like the warrior, right?
Yeah.
And he had all those. Yeah, I remember. I read all those books, those Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hicks books or whatever. Dragons of Autumn something and Dragons of Spring something. Yeah, those books were great, and Raceland was a really cool character. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably like the second series I read after Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and they had their own campaign in the D&D universe as well? Like they came out with the sort of Dragonlance campaign, right?
They did. It had one of the best covers, I think, in the game for a while. And then you keep referencing the Cleric and Deities and Demigods was like one of my favorite book to flip through.
Yeah, I love those. Like all those, I still can look through those different mythologies, like the Norse gods and the Egyptian gods and all that stuff. And I love the art of those things. And that was great when, like, we'd sometimes start campaigns where your characters would be like level 30 or something, and they'd all like fight like Odin, and it was all ridiculous. Like it didn't have any sort of grounding, but like the idea that like Odin had like 400 hit points and like certain kind of saving, then you'd go up against him. Like I love that sort of stuff too. That was super cool.
Right, and in that book there was only like 5 gods that had straight 25s for their stats, and it was like Odin and Zeus, and I don't remember what the other 3 were, but it was very limited. And of course, as nerds, like it goes back to. Are you familiar with Noah Atweiler?
No.
Spoonie. Well, he's he's a comedian and YouTube personality, but he's kind of known for saying if you stat it, they'll kill it, and that's exactly the truth when it comes to D&D.
Right.
You can't put Cthulhu stats out anywhere because then the players are looking to kill him.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
How long did you play Pathfinder for?
We played for like 6 months, and we got this book. Like, there's a campaign book called Rise of the Rune Lords, which is like a pretty specified like campaign. And so that's the campaign we played. We had all the books and everything, but then I went through systematically like the Rise of the Rune Lords thing. And that was the thing where I kept trying to steer my characters to play this version. Like they had to go fight these orcs and these things, and like they never would. They'd always just wind up like staying in the inn and deciding to go to some city that I didn't know anything about. And like I had to, but that campaign is pretty cool. And like I remember in chapter 2 there was like these haunt things where like your character goes into this house and like they'd be haunted by various figures, and I thought that was a really cool mechanic. Like they all had specific psychological haunts that would affect them in combat and stuff like that. And it was a really detailed, interesting world, but we only got to explore like a little bit of it, and then all our schedules sort of got messed up.
And also, it didn't sound like your players were interested in staying exactly on track for the game anyway.
Yeah, they wouldn't fight the monsters that I wanted them to fight anyway. So what was the point?
That's great. No good gaming session survives first contact with the players. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
What was it like for Stranger Things to have so much revolving around D&D for you? Like, did you know that going in?
Yeah, because when I first read the script, like, one of the first scenes is all those kids in the basement playing D&D. And you know, the Duffers are like big D&D nerds, and I am as well. And so like, even, you know, it was funny because we had a conversation on set where I forgot that the Demogorgon was an actual monster in the monster manual. Like, I thought they were confusing it with some other demon guy. And they brought it up, like they brought in the manual and they had the page and they were like, no, look here, the stats and everything. And like the Demogorgon is an actual demon. Like he's in like the 9 planes of hell or something.
Out of the Abyss, yep. He was just recently featured in one of the newer modules, actually called Out of the Abyss.
Okay. And is that like the planes of Hades where those guys, the devils, exist?
So devils are hell.
Okay.
And demons are the Abyss.
And is the Abyss neutral or evil?
Evil. They're both evil. Just
okay.
One is chaos and evil, and one is lawful and evil.
Oh, okay. So which is lawful and evil? The hell realm? Oh.
Yeah, devils tend to be more about corrupting people through choice.
Okay.
Where demons are just all out evil. Yeah, Out of the Abyss module is really interesting in that it features a lot of the demon lords, and I think at one point like they all fight.
Oh, that's cool.
And like I think the players kind of have to like survive the fighting of the demons.
Yeah, I got really into, in terms of those planes and stuff, I'm really kind of interested in this, what is it, the SLAD or the limbo plane that's like chaotic neutral or whatever, where like gravity doesn't exist and there's weird reptilian beings that like, the SLAD, is that what they're called? They're the SCAD or something? The SLAD.
Yeah, Sladdy. They are like these frog demons that they didn't have at Limbo. And Limbo is, what do they call it? The Howling Plane. So I got the new monster manual right here, and it also, the new monster manuals or the new books really, they really have the feel of the old books because the pages are falling out of them, just like they did in the second printing of first edition.
Yeah, there's the Death SLAD. Like those are like the higher up ones, right? And there's like red and blue and stuff, and they all get along and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that.
Those guys there, yeah.
Yeah, I just like a place of like chaotic neutral, like this idea that it's not good or bad, it's just complete chaos. Like it has no. I love that realm. But in terms of like, my question for you would be like, in terms of, because you sort of put characters together, right?
We do all kinds of stuff, sure.
So in terms of like a Demogorgon world or a Demogorgon campaign, like let's talk about Stranger Things as like a Demogorgon campaign. Like you have a party that fights, like the last boss is like a Demogorgon, right? So I'd be curious to hear your theories, because I'm not going to tell you anything, but your theories in terms of, in the next campaign, if these characters were to fight other creatures from that world, what would be a step up from the Demogorgon? Like what would be another monster that might, or another devil that might inhabit the universe of that Demogorgon and might be superior to him, or a general of his, or like what would you put in that campaign?
Well, for one, I don't know what the hell those kids are going to do if it's a step up from, the creature from the Upside Down, because that thing was pretty nasty of its own. We actually do a series where we D&Dize monsters, and we did do the creature from the Upside Down.
Well, you did? Oh, nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't actually remember what we did at this point, though, because it was right after we had binge watched Stranger Things.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's definitely like the Upside Down is like this kind of like shadow realm, right, that adjoins this world, the prime material plane, which I loved, like the teacher explaining to the kids how this all works, like in theory, and they're actually like doing this stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like it could even turn out, right, the creature from the Upside Down isn't like a unique being, but maybe there's more of them. So it could be the whole race of them. Obviously, so it's this plane, it's shadow. 11 is obviously psychic. So and that's what drew the creature. So there must be some kind of psychic connection,
right,
with them. And you know, maybe it could even be that like maybe they're like a hive mind, which would be pretty wild and crazy.
I can reveal nothing to you, but I appreciate
I
your
wouldn't.
theories.
Yeah. I actually have no theories. I just go in, enjoy it. I am, and I'm also like the worst movie critic because I don't, because I have like no taste. Like I just watch, enjoy.
Yeah.
People are like, that movie was terrible. I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah. Did you see the trailer for season 2, the Super Bowl trailer?
Let's see. You know, I don't know if I did or not.
There's it was like a little trailer we put out for the Super Bowl. It just has like little clips of this season, different things that we have. And there's one where Will is standing at a doorway, and as he looks out the doorway, the sky glows red and there are these lightning strikes, and you see this like enormous, like spider looking being out there in the distance. So there is this entity that we've kind of revealed that that exists in this world, and you know, people have been speculating on like whether or not it has to do with the Thessal Hydra talk about in last season, at the end of last season, or what it really is. But that's just interesting to me in terms of the lore of D&D, like what because the Demogorgon in Dungeons and Dragons is like a devil, right? Like he's a demon.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have like other ranks of demons, right? Do you remember like where the Demogorgon fits in those ranks? Like,
he was pretty high up. The
high
Demogorgon and Orcus were two rivals, and they were like the top.
Oh, okay. What's Orcus?
Orcus is like Orcus is just another demon lord, and like his purview is undeath and undead.
Okay.
It's like a Lord of Ghouls. Someone's dropping the theory of Loth in the chat.
Loth is that spider queen, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember fighting Loth when I was a kid. Yeah, Loth, the spider queen. I mean, I don't know, man. Like that thing, if you've seen the trailer, that thing looks a little bigger than Loth, but I like what it does. It does have a spider-like quality to it. Yeah, it's pretty freaky.
Well, in previous editions, Loth was just one of the demon lords.
Oh, really? I thought she was like a spider queen or something. No, she was actually.
She is. They eventually elevated her to a god. She's the god of the Drow. The Dark Elves.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I did see the trailer, but I've just data dumped since then.
Right.
Now my brain is like the new Star Wars trailer, the Ragnarok trailer.
Right. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah. Well, what are you excited for?
I mean, in terms of this season, man, it's gonna be great. Like, I'm really excited for you guys to see it. We really have kind of like upped our game in terms of the world expanding. And there's a lot of new mysteries that we're able to start to play out in this season. Like we didn't know that we'd be a hit show. Like we were making a season last year and we didn't even know if we'd get a season 2. We didn't know if people would like it. So, you know, we had our story sort of self-contained with these little pieces of cliffhangers, like Eleven's reemergence and, you know, Hopper's sort of in with the lab sort of stuff. But we didn't know how big our series would be. So in terms of this season, we're able to know that we have, I think, a couple more seasons ahead of us. And so we start to create a really broader palette. I mean, it related to D&D. It's like if you have a campaign, right? And suddenly your campaign is like, all right, I can start to lay in this pipe that won't be completely solved by the end of season 2. I can start to lay in these characters or these monsters or these beings or these things that won't pay off until further down the road. And so we're creating our own sort of mythos around this universe. And the brothers have this document about the Upside Down, this like huge document where they know all about it. But we've really only teased in season 1 just a little bit of it. So we start to really go into this bigger world about what the Upside Down is, what it means, what its significance is, what exists in it, whether or not it has sort of sentience, or like what it's there to do. And that's like exciting. So we have like a rip-roaring story for season 2, and yet we also are able to start to like get even bigger. And so there are things that are going to pay off like way further down the line. And also like we're able to go a lot further into character, which I'm really excited about. Like Hopper starts to get to reveal a lot more things about himself and a lot more of really who he is, which we started to touch on and we start to see with his daughter and like, you know, his sort of reemergence into like becoming a man again and like sort of reawakening. But we start to sort of see more about who he is as a man in this season. And that's really exciting. And also like, I know a lot of the payoff if we're able to continue and do more seasons in terms of where he's going. And so it's really fun, you know. It's a really fun world to play in. It's really exciting. And it's amazing to be able to get to do something that is so exciting cinematically and sci-fi and like monster movie and also has such heart to it and such soul. And I feel like, you know, you so rarely do you get to have both those things in a TV show. Like you either get one or the other. And I like both of those things. But when you put them together, like it's just like a dream come true. It's a great experience.
Yeah, such a good mix of drama, thriller.
Yeah, totally.
I'm starting to get some feedback. I don't know why. It wasn't there before.
I don't know. It might be my end. My internet's not so great sometimes.
Let's see. It's okay. It's gone now. That was weird. But yeah, like when the season ended, like my concern was, are they self-contained seasons where, okay, is it going to be a new, like almost like an anthology with each season? And I would hate to see the characters go away because you guys all did such an awesome job.
Thanks.
And you know what, these characters, well, the adults anyway, the adults are so wonderfully broken.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's my whole thing is like, we're all, you know, I like to play guys, you know, on TV, I think you see a lot of heroic individuals or people that are so capable, even in these comic book universes and stuff. And I really like to play people like myself that are broken and messed up and, you know, are just trying to get by, but who are able to sort of take heroic actions amidst that and kind of grow. And so that's been really exciting. And, you know, it was originally structured. We didn't know whether we'd be an anthology like American Horror Story or something where people play different roles and you do different things. But I think we are so in love with the characters, and I think people fell in love with the characters and the writers and the duffers and everything too, that we didn't want to let them go. And like, we want to explore them. And there is so much more to explore with these people. So I think each season will still have its own self-contained nature. Like you'll still see a story and you'll be satisfied at the end, but you'll still start to unravel these characters more and more so they can pay off further and further down the line. And that's, you know, so you have the kind of the best of both worlds.
If you see me laughing or whatever, it's because I'm kind of like poking around in the chat too. Okay. Someone asked a great question. I got to ask you. What was your favorite Hopper punch?
Yeah. Oh, I love them all so much. I mean, you know, it was funny. Like the one that we really kind of defined the character as was, there's the one where I go into the morgue and the guy won't let me in, and I say, like, I make up some excuse about like, no, I know Bannon and blah, blah, blah. And he goes like, I don't work for him. And I just, instead of saying something, I just pop him. And we actually talked, I think at one point the conversation with Netflix was like, can't Hopper like outsmart this guy? Like, isn't there something that he can do that's like charming or intelligent? And they were like, no, it's just funny, man. He just punches people. And like, so that began the whole Hopper punch thing. And I love that about him, is like, he just gets frustrated, and at a certain point he's just got to pop people. So I think that was probably my favorite, the one in the morgue. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty fun. At that point with Netflix, you got to be like, have you guys even seen the character? Have you read it? Like,
yeah, exactly. And like, you know, we based him on iconic things like Indiana Jones, who, like, you know, that great sequence where the sword guy comes out and Raiders of the Lost Ark doing all this stuff, and he just pulls a gun and shoots him, like that, that we love in those older movies. And so we wanted to bring some of that to him, just that brute, you know, funny way of approaching a situation. So
one of our patrons, 7D System, has a question for you that, thank you for the, Tammy, thank you so much for the super chat. Much appreciated. asked, was there any resistance to putting D&D into the narrative of the story from anyone?
I don't think so. It was sort of integral to the whole thing because it was an 80s based story. And I think because these guys are such fans of like horror and fantasy worlds, and that's what our world is, and because it's a way that these kids interpret the sci-fi insanity that's going on around them, and will continue to in season 2. Like they continue to, it's sort of a fun thing for these characters to have this world that, the adults are all like, this is crazy. What are you talking about? And they're like, no, we understand this. Like, this is where we live. And so there wasn't really resistance. It was all, it was all sort of integral to the story. And I don't think the story would work without it.
So you're getting a lot of love in the chat right now.
Hey, awesome.
And they absolutely love the Hopper character.
Yeah, I love him too. He's so fun. He's so weird, strange, kind of fat. Love him.
Well, because he's like a real dude. That's the thing. Yeah. Now, Mark says Nerdarchy's got a D&Di's Hopper. We could absolutely do that. I'll bring that up.
Yeah, I wonder what his armor class is and his hit points and stuff. It was funny. There's a game. There's this game Hearthstone that Blizzard puts out where they have like cards and stuff. And a couple fans put out some Hearthstone cards, and Chief Hopper had one. And he wasn't that powerful. I was a little bit disappointed. So I feel like I'm going to get sober for successive seasons so he can get a little bit stronger, up his hit points, his saving throws and stuff. It would be really fun to see a campaign. I saw some art online too where they mapped out like 11 as a mage character, like Lucas as like a thief character, Will as the wizard, as like a fireball throwing wizard, and all these different. It would be really fun to see people like take that to the extreme and see how you could create a Stranger Things campaign. I've seen people do like little video games. I've even seen people do like those choose your own adventure old books. Mm-hmm. They write like certain chapters from that, and it's like, if you decide to do this, like turn to page this. So it would be really cool to see a Stranger Things campaign for season 1. That would be really fun. Tweet me that if you guys have ideas about that. That's a great idea.
That could be a thing. We might be able to make that happen. So there's a couple of character ideas popping up for Hopper.
All right. What do you guys got? Let me see.
We got Drunken Master.
yeah.
And we have a gunslinger. Nice.
Both those apply very well.
So I don't know like how much of a redemption arc I would really want to see with Hopper. Like, I don't know if I want the character to change. Barbarian is popping up as well.
Yeah, I like all that stuff. No, it's true. I mean, I think that like Hopper at the end of the day does have an unresolved tragedy in his life, and I don't want that ever to be played down or ever to be completely resolved. And while he does have a reawakening at the end of that season when he saves Will, his daughter is still dead, and he still has a lot of remorse and guilt about that, which you'll start to understand more of as the seasons go on. And that stuff is real. That stuff never goes away, and he can't just make himself feel better. So I don't want complete redemption for Hopper either.
They're also talking about different feats. Tavern Brawler, you're absolutely right. Tavern Brawler is a feat in 5th edition that basically lets you attack unarmed and be better at it. Also use improvised weapons.
Yeah, especially when he has a couple beers in him. Absolutely.
Yeah, so by like what, 8, 9 in the morning?
Exactly. Very early on. Right after he brushes his teeth, he starts drinking.
Yeah. Oh man, the 80s nostalgia in that movie was so good. Plus, and all the throwbacks to them from film and TV at that time as well.
Yeah, I love that era. I mean, I think that we all the movies that kind of came out of that era, and all the even the television shows, like even stuff like Columbo, I was looking back, like different shows and stuff. I just love that era. I think it was a really kind of a golden age for movies and TV. And so we're trying to recapture some of that by using the same lexicon while telling an original story. And I think that's just, it's so fun to be a part of that.
Well, what kind of music are you into? just go in a different direction here.
Me, I'm into like all kinds. Like, I'm not a huge like music guy. Like my thing has always been prose. Like I've always been much more interested in books and interested in like reading. But in terms of music, like I like everything from like, you know, teeny bopper, silly pop songs, and then all the way down to like I love Dylan, I love Joni Mitchell, I love like Jim Croce, I love Simon and Garfunkel. I love a lot of old folk stuff as well. I'm not really into like rap and hip hop and stuff like that. Although I admire like a lot of the technique, but it's just not really my thing. I like more melodic stuff. But yeah, I'm kind of all over the map. I have very terrible taste. Like, you know, I like a nice Carly Rae Jepsen song every now and again. And I have like a good Bob Dylan taste as well. So I'm all over the map.
Nice. So I always jokingly tell these guys in different videos, I'm like, late 80s, early 90s was like the peak of human civilization. We can probably just end it now.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Except for fashion choices, maybe, man. Late 80s fashion. Ooh, that stuff's pretty grim.
Yeah. It was kind of brutal. You know, being New Yorkers.
Too, man. I got to keep my hair so damn long. It's crazy. It's like really annoying in the summer.
Yeah. In the 80s, we had parachute pants and New Yorkers.
Yeah, exactly. MC Hammer, that stuff. Yeah. A good time for fashion.
But you know, I was more into like heavy metal and
yeah.
I still listen to all that stuff, Anthrax and Judas Priest. And,
yeah, I mean, I love the original Black Sabbath album. Is like I think one of the greatest albums of all time. That there's some great metal stuff that I love.
So you said you have to travel back and forth a lot. You also said you had before we started you had some questions for me. So if there's anything you want to throw out there.
Yeah, no, I was just curious about that Demogorgon concept in terms of like what monsters you think fit with that, like other demon lords or other like, but I guess like, and it's so funny, like my interest in the Slad or those reptilian creatures, but I guess those guys are not on the same plane as the demon lords, right?
Yeah, not really, but they're on their own thing. But you know, now like, was that an Easter egg? did he inadvertently let something slide?
No, I really don't know about. No, it's not an Easter egg, but I just love that world of like limbo where it's like chaotic neutral. Like I love the idea of a chaotic world that's neutral as well, but that is not a season 2 spoiler. I just myself am fascinated by that stuff. But I was curious in terms of the theories, because I see a lot of theories floating around about what that new spider monster might be that you see in the distance, what that big, red storm creature might be. And, I was just curious in terms of your D&D expertise, if you know of any, like who's above the Demogorgon, like who's the ultimate ruler of the Hell realm or whatever the realm is.
So in Hell, like if you had to pick an ultimate ruler, it would be Asmodeus. Like it's real easy. Hell's easy because they're very organized.
Okay.
Right. But the Abyss is a lot harder because
they all have their own like place. Yeah.
Because there's no rhyme or reason. Everyone is always fighting for power over everyone else. And that's the same in Hell, but in Hell there's a structure, right? And you have to work your way through the ranks and you kind of know where you are and you know who you have to beat. But in Hell, there's no rules of engagement. It's it's a free for all. I mean, not in Hell, in the Abyss, it's a free for all. So it's every man for himself, and however you can make it happen.
All right, interesting.
So so they did drop the Thistle Hydra,
right?
So that's a clue somewhere, as I'm sure. And then there is like, are they really going by the D&D mythology at all? Anyway, or are they just throwing stuff out there?
Right, exactly. Well, you guys will have to find out. I can't say anything else, but it will be very exciting to see what you discover in season 2, what we're up against. It's pretty gnarly stuff. Yeah. I
was surprised. Even my wife watched the whole series. Her and the kids watched it together just before the cruise. They were prepping.
Yeah, it's a funny show where it's like kids can enjoy it. Like kids are like 13, and then like people that are like in their 60s come up to me on the street and say they love it, and like men and women. You know, it's got so many different colors to it that I think everyone can find sort of an into the show, and I'm really proud of that.
Someone's saying the spider's a red herring.
So the spider's a red herring?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. We will see, ladies and gentlemen. We will see if it's a red herring.
So, and then we're gonna have to D&Di's Hopper, and then we'll tweet it at you, so you can check it out. So we do a bunch of different fictional characters, a lot of superheroes, and
cool,
and different things from literature. People suggest them, and if it's something we're familiar with, we'll absolutely do it. They always try to get us to like video games and anime that we don't watch.
Cool. Well, I hope I have high stats. But thank you, man. I gotta take off. I'm running late, but it's good talking to you. That was really fun. And thank you, chat. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy season 2. And thanks for all the Hopper love.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for taking time out and hanging with us, and for staying on for so long. I know you said 20 minutes, but I got like double out of you.
Yeah, we really got into it. I love it.
I appreciate it very much, David. Thank you.
All right, brother. Take care.
And you guys out there, until next time, stay nerdy.